best projecting spring fragrances for women. A lot of spring fragrances are pretty light, they don't last very long, but I've chosen some that I think have pretty good longevity, especially for light, fresh fragrances. And as always, all the fragrances I mentioned will be down in the affiliate links down in the description below. I'm going to start with one that is surprisingly strong, which is Calvin Klein Eternity. Now this is an older fragrance from the 80s, but I think it holds up pretty well. It's kind of a finicky fragrance. I would try getting a sample or something before you get this one, but if it does fit your body chemistry, it's going to be really good. It's pretty much all florals. It's kind of similar to Red Door by Elizabeth Arden. All florals, really feminine, really fresh, very reminiscent of springtime, and just very strong. I don't know how they managed to get this fragrance so strong, because usually pure floral fragrances are not very long lasting, or good projectors, but this one is. I don't know how they did it, but longevity is probably like 6 to 7 hours, which is really good for this type of fragrance. And projection, definitely, people across the room will be able to smell you in this, definitely. But again, this is a more particular fragrance. Try it before you buy it, if you can, because it doesn't fit with everybody. But again, if it does fit you, it's going to smell really, really good. Then, if Eternity doesn't work out for you, you want an alternative. One that I think is kind of just an all-around good choice is Diptyque Fleur de Peau, which basically means skin flower. This is it's pretty light, but it has unusually good longevity and projection. So whenever I smell this, I think of springtime. It's just one of those kind of grassy, floral, breezy, green type of fragrances. And it does have quite a few florals. It does have some green notes, some all natural notes. Has a carrot note thrown in there to give it, you know, some intrigue. But this is, again, surprisingly long-lasting. About 6, almost 7 hours of longevity, which is kind of unheard of for this type of light fragrance. So you really get a run for your money out of this one. But it's also just very pleasant smelling. It's a very innocent, innocuous, unintrusive type of fragrance. I haven't come across anyone who really dislikes the smell of this, because again, it's a very natural smelling fragrance. So unless you just hate the smell of gardens and grass, you're probably gonna like this, most likely. Now it is on the more expensive side, and this is another one that I would recommend try getting a sample before you get the full bottle. I mean, this is a sample, it's a pretty big sample, but definitely try it before you buy it, because it is expensive and it doesn't work with everybody. But again, kind of similar with Eternity. If it does work for you, then it's going to work really, really well. Then moving on to this one, to one that I think is really, really good. This is Guerlain Iris Torréfié, so burnt iris, you know, that sort of thing. I love iris. Iris reminds me of springtime every time. And this is probably one of the strongest iris fragrances I've come across. Now, I was actually debating whether to put Dior Homme Original in this kind of portion, because that also is a very strong iris note and could arguably be considered a unisex scent, but I figured with this one, which is actually an official female scent, it's still pretty close. This is a delicious, sweet iris fragrance, very fresh, kind of cold actually, kind of gives you that clean coldness, and it's even a little bit dewy. You can kind of imagine yourself like it just rained and you're walking through the garden, there's some irises there, you know, that sort of thing. So definitely very prominent with that iris note, but also prominent with its projection. Now this isn't the strongest on the whole list, but it just still has pretty good projection and longevity. Longevity is about 6 hours, almost 7. Projection is really good. People around you will definitely notice this one, even though it is pretty light. But that iris note, I always find that iris seems to be a pretty strong floral note. So this definitely sticks out. You'll definitely get noticed with this one. And it's just a very attractive scent. It's very feminine, it's sophisticated, it's classy, it's classic, and all that. So definitely you can't go too wrong with this one, especially it just has that really natural, very unintrusive type of smell to it. Then, something which is also pretty natural smelling, but has some surprising strength. Jo Malone English Pear and Freesia. This is a unisex scent. It also has some patchouli in it. I mean, this is another one you can imagine yourself walking through a garden or something, you know. It has that very authentic, natural smell to it. It doesn't smell weirdly synthetic. It doesn't smell like soap. You know, it just smells like the real deal, which is nice and refreshing and clean smelling. So, what I like about this, and what makes it last and project better, is the patchouli note, because if it was just pear and freesia, it would just disappear immediately. But the patchouli gives it a nice, it grounds it, so it gives it a little bit of earthiness to it, gives it that kind of green note to it. This is just a very pleasant thing to wear in general, especially for springtime. I mean, this is the lightest you can go without having a fragrance that disappears, you know, within 30 minutes. Yeah, this will last about 5 hours, bordering on 6. You know, it kind of depends person to person. But in general, this is a very high quality fragrance. Anything from Jo Malone is, you know, very high quality, and it just smells nice. Again, it's kind of designed to be super likable, so when you wear this, you're not gonna have any problems with people disliking what you're wearing. One of those, you know, just all-purpose types of fragrances. Now, moving on from this one that I think is pretty good as well is Carmina from Creed here. Now, this isn't the freshest one on the list, but it is still pretty fresh. It has a bunch of florals and things like that, but it also has some heavier notes like resins and things like that. So it kind of counterbalances between being a fresh fragrance and then being more of a heavy resinous fragrance. But I still think it's a pretty good option for spring. I think it's very feminine. It still works for springtime, even going into summer a little bit. It's generally a lighter type of fragrance with just some heavier notes thrown in. So I think it makes it pretty versatile overall. And being from Creed, this is one of those more special occasion type of fragrances. You pay the extra money, you get a really luxurious fragrance. And I would definitely say this one's worth the money. It just has that very unique smell to it. There's not really anything else that smells remotely similar to it. So you do get a pretty good deal with Carmina. And again, it's a good option for springtime, and because of the heavier base notes that it has, it does allow it to last longer than your average springtime fragrance. But that is pretty much my list here of, you know, good projecting fragrances for springtime for women. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, of course, you could leave a like, maybe subscribe, and I make videos throughout the week, so stick around for those.